My fiancée live-streamed her bachelorette party, joking. Should I even marry him? I replied in the chat, don't bother. Then I texted the venue to cancel the wedding. Her maid of honor was calling me in a panic. Seconds later, I'm a 32-year-old man, and I was engaged to Rachel, 29. I thought we were happy. I believed the meticulous planning, the endless discussions about floral arrangements and invitation fonts was the shared, tedious joy of two people building a life together. It turns out that for one of us, it was just building a stage. It was a Thursday night. I was at home paying the final deposit for the caterer online, feeling that quiet, adult satisfaction of checking off a major item on the to-do list. My phone buzzed with a notification. Rachel F. is live on Instagram. I smiled. Her bachelorette party, a weekend at some upscale rental house with her maid of honor, Caroline, and a group of their friends. I tapped the notification, expecting silly games and champagne flutes. And that's what I saw at first. The camera was shaky, clearly in Caroline's hand. Rachel stood front and center, wearing a future Mrs. Miller sash, her face flushed from alcohol. They were laughing loudly. Okay, real talk, Caroline slurred, angling the camera to frame them both. You're getting locked down. How does it feel? Rachel took a dramatic swig from a bottle. Alexander's great, you know? He's so stable. She said the word like it was a terminal diagnosis. Her friends giggled. He pays the bills on time. His car is always clean. He remembers to take the trash out. But is he fun? Someone shouted from off-screen. Rachel's eyes, usually so bright and focused on me, looked glassy and distant. She leaned toward the camera, a conspiratorial smirk forming. He's a great provider. My parents love him. But is it enough? She paused, looking around at her cheering friends. Honestly, guys, should I even marry him? The room erupted. Some cheering, some shouting. Don't do it. Caroline laughed so hard the camera shook. The live chat flooded with hearts, laughing emojis, and comments like run, girl, and OMG, Rachel. My world didn't shatter. There was no burst of rage. It was more like a switch flipping, a cold, silent, profound click in my mind. The background noise of my life, the hum of the refrigerator, distant city traffic, faded into a sharp, crystalline silence. She wasn't asking a question. She was voicing a doubt she'd clearly been carrying for a while. And she was doing it in front of hundreds of people. My fingers moved before my thoughts caught up. I was logged into my personal account, my face as the profile picture. I typed one sentence into the live chat, don't bother. I didn't wait for a reaction. I closed the app. My heart wasn't racing. It beat steadily, firmly. Practicality took over. The venue. I opened my messages and scrolled to our coordinator, Deborah. Me. Hi, Deborah. This is Alexander Miller. Please consider this message my formal notification that I'm canceling our wedding scheduled for October 12th. I understand the deposit is non-refundable. Please confirm receipt of this message. Thank you. I hit send. The spreadsheet. We had a massive shared Google Sheet. Budgets, guest lists, vendor contacts. I clicked file, then make a copy, and saved it to my private drive. Then I returned to the original, opened share, found Rachel's name, and removed her access. The caterer. I had just paid them. I sent a follow-up email. Subject cancellation. Event number 24601 hello. Further to my payment a few moments ago. The event has now been canceled. As per our contract, I understand this evening's payment and the initial deposit are non-refundable. No further action is needed. Regards, Alexander Miller. My phone rang. Caroline. Her caller ID showed the same contorted, smiling face I'd just seen on the live stream. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. A text appeared immediately. Caroline Alexander, call me now. Another 1 seconds later. What did you do? Then the one that made it real. The venue just emailed Rachel a cancellation confirmation. WTF is going on? I put my phone on silent and set it face down on the counter. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a tall glass of ice water. The house was quiet. She had asked a question, and I had simply given her an answer. The rest wasn't revenge. It was just paperwork. Update 1. The next 24 hours were a strange kind of silent storm. My phone was a nuclear reactor of notifications. Dozens of missed calls from Rachel, Caroline, and several numbers I didn't recognize. The texts ranged from hysterical, "How could you do this to me?" to vaguely threatening, "You better answer your phone, Alexander." I didn't. I forwarded the venue cancellation email to Rachel's father, who had paid the venue cancellation email to Rachel's father, who had paid the initial deposit. The subject line read, "Thetwhy," and the body was blank. I felt it was only right that he knew where his money had gone. Rachel came home late Friday afternoon. I heard her key in the lock, then the sound of her suitcase wheels rolling across the hardwood floor. I was sitting on the sofa reading a book. "Alexander," I looked up. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen. The party sash was gone. "You have 5 minutes to explain yourself," she said, her voice shaking with a rage that felt completely unearned. "Explain what, Rachel?" I asked, carefully placing my bookmark. "You asked a question. I gave you an answer. Then I acted on it. It was a joke. I was drunk. It was my bachelorette party," she shouted, her voice rising with each excuse. "You don't just blow up our entire lives over a stupid joke." "Was it a joke when you said I was stable, like it was a bad thing? Or when your friends were telling you to run? That all seemed pretty genuine to me. You were performing, Rachel, and you forgot your most important audience member was watching. You humiliated me," she cried. "You commented for everyone to see, then you called the venue. My phone blew up. Do you know how embarrassing that was?" "I imagine it was very embarrassing," I said calmly. "But you are the one live streaming to hundreds of people. The humiliation, as you call it, started when you held up our relationship for public ridicule. I just ended the show." That seemed to stun her. She sputtered, searching for a new angle. "The money, Alexander." "My dad's money. We just lost thousands of dollars." "Your father's money?" "Yes," I corrected. "I paid the final deposits for the caterer and the band myself last night, so I'm out a fair amount too. I've already emailed your father. I'll be sending him a check for my half of the non-refundable venue deposit he covered. It's the least I can do." Her mouth opened and closed, speechless. The idea that I would act responsibly and decently seemed to short-circuit her argument. She had been counting on me to be the villain so she could be the victim. She left that night to stay with Carolyn. Good. The next phase of the narrative began the following day. Carolyn, a PR disaster in her own right, created a new group chat with our mutual friends titled Supporting Rachel. Her opening message was a masterclass in spin. "Hey everyone. As you may have heard, Alexander had a massive unprovoked outburst and has called off the wedding. Rachel is obviously devastated. He completely overreacted to a silly joke she made at her party and is now refusing to speak to her. We are all just trying to rally around her during this awful time." My phone buzzed as a few friends responded with "OMG, what happened?" and messages of support for Rachel. I didn't reply. Instead, I did some more housekeeping. Rachel and Carolyn ran a small side business, designing invitations and social media graphics. For the past year, they had been using my premium Canva account and my Adobe Creative Cloud license. I logged in, changed the passwords, and revoked their access. Then I remembered the shared Amazon account, the one with my credit card as the primary payment method. I logged out all other devices and changed that password as well. Later that evening, I received a call from a number I recognized as Rachel's father, Jack. I answered. "Alexander," he said, his voice heavy. "It's Jack. What the hell is going on?" I explained everything calmly. I told him about the live stream, the exact words she used, the cheering friends, and the very public nature of it all. I told him I had seen a future with his daughter that she was clearly and publicly unsure she wanted. He was silent for a long moment. "She can be dramatic, son," he said finally. "She gets caught up in the moment. She didn't mean it. With all due respect, Jack, she's 29. She's not a child. Dramatic doesn't cover publicly questioning whether you should marry someone a month before the wedding. She meant it in that moment, and that moment was enough for me." He sighed, a deep, weary sound of parental exhaustion. "What happens now? We untangle our lives," I said. "That's all." After I hung up, I walked through the quiet apartment, our apartment. On the fridge was a photo of us from a trip last year, smiling, happy. A sharp, deep pang of grief hit me. Not for her, not for the person who mocked me on a live stream, but for the man in that photo, for the future he believed he had. The feeling passed. It was replaced by a grim resolve. This was a controlled demolition. Messy, sad, but necessary to clear the ground for whatever came next. My phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. Rachel needs to come get her things, and you owe her for the wedding money she spent. Her dad is going to call your parents. I laughed. The entitlement was almost impressive. You owe her. I took a screenshot of the text. Something told me it would be useful to have a record of their mindset. This was just the beginning. Update 2. 2 weeks have passed since what my friends now refer to as the live stream incident. The initial shockwave has faded, replaced by the slow, tedious work of separating two lives. Rachel is still staying at Caroline's place. Their supporting Rachel group chat has apparently turned into a running stream of complaints about me. But a couple of friends have sent me screenshots. The narrative is that I'm being cold and punitive. Hilarious, considering I'm simply living my life, while Rachel is the one who blew up the wedding. The first major issue was the apartment. The lease is in both our names. Rent was due on the 1st. I paid my half. Hers remained unpaid. So I sent an email. I find written communication works best in situations like this. It leaves a record. 2. Rachel F. Jack F. Subject: overdue rent for Apt 4, B123, Main Street, due 10/1. Rachel, this is a reminder that your half of the rent, amounting to $1,100, is now 5 days overdue. As per our signed lease agreement, we are both legally responsible for the full amount. Failure to pay will negatively impact both of our credit scores and may result in eviction proceedings. Please remit payment immediately. If you wish to be removed from the lease, you will need to sign a release form with the landlord and pay your share of the rent up to that date. Regards, Alexander. I CC'd her father, since it was his money she was used to spending. He should be aware of the liabilities she was accumulating. The call came within 10 minutes. Rachel. She was furious. I can't believe you CC'd my dad, she shouted. Hi, Rachel, I said, putting the call on speaker so I could continue making coffee. Are you calling to tell me you've paid the rent? I'm not paying rent for a place I'm not living in. You kicked me out. I didn't kick you out, Rachel. You left after you torched our engagement. Our legal obligation to the landlord, however, didn't leave with you. I'm protecting my credit score. You should be concerned about yours. This is so cruel. You're trying to ruin me. No, I'm trying to pay my bills, something you once described as stable and boring. Turns out it's pretty important. Let me know when you've sent the e-transfer. I hung up. The next day, her brother Dennis showed up at my door. He's 2 years younger than her and shares her flair for theatrical grievance. Dude, he started, skipping any greeting. You need to back off. You're going to ruin her credit over a few $100 after everything she's going through. Everything I put her through, you mean? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. Let me be clear, Dennis. Your sister publicly disrespected me and our relationship. I ended it. Now there are administrative tasks to handle. This is one of them. She pays what she owes. She signs the paperwork to get off the lease, and this problem is resolved. Just be a gentleman, Nan. Just let her off. Being a gentleman doesn't mean setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm, I said. A phrase I've been repeating to myself often lately. It means handling my responsibilities, which I've done. She needs to handle hers. He left, muttering about what I would changed. I hadn't. I was just no longer willing to absorb the cost of her irresponsibility. Then came the issue of her belongings, and one of mine. Amid everything, I realized something was missing from my nightstand. My late grandmother's watch. It wasn't flashy, but it was a beautiful vintage piece, and one of the few things I had of hers. Rachel loved wearing it. She always called it our watch, but she knew it was mine. A family heirloom. She had arranged, via a curt one-line text, for Caroline to come collect her things while I was at work. I sent another email to Rachel F. CC. Jack F. Subject: collection of personal items and return of family heirloom. Rachel, I'm fine with Caroline picking up your belongings tomorrow between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Please ensure she also returns my grandmother's watch, which was left on my nightstand. For clarity, I've attached a screenshot of our texts from July where you asked to borrow it. It needs to be returned tomorrow. Thank you, Alexander. CCing her father was deliberate. He knew my grandmother. He understood what that watch meant to me. I was making it clear. This wasn't just about things. This was a line being crossed. The next day, I came home from work to an apartment that felt eerily empty. Her closets were cleared, her makeup gone from the bathroom. It was a relief. I checked my nightstand, no watch. My heart sank, but the anger that followed was cold and precise. This wasn't an oversight. This was a petty, deliberate theft. The rent was still unpaid. The watch was gone. But something new had appeared in my inbox. An email from Jack. Subject: let's sort this out. It seemed her father was finally ready to step in. Final update: it's been about 4 months. The divorce is finalized. Just kidding. We never got married, so it was simply a clean, brutal break. The emotional fallout has we settled, and my life is thankfully quiet. Jack's email led to a sit-down meeting. The three of us met at a neutral coffee shop. It felt like a hostage negotiation. Rachel sat there, sullen, staring into her latte as if it held answers. Jack looked exhausted, tired of his 29-year-old daughter's self-inflicted chaos. He began by sliding a small velvet pouch across the table. It stopped in front of me. "Here," he said flatly. "This is yours. This was never up for debate, Rachel. And it was beneath you to take it." Rachel flinched but didn't look up. I opened the pouch. My grandmother's watch. Relief washed over me, so strongly it nearly buckled me. I slipped it into my pocket without a word. Point 1 to me. "Now the rent," Jack continued, glancing at a paper. "I've sent you the $1,100 for last month. Alexander. I've also spoken to your landlord and paid the fee to have Rachel's name removed from the lease. This is the last time, Rachel. The absolute last time I bail you out of a mess you made." She muttered something that sounded like she was blaming him too. I simply took a sip of my coffee. Let her keep her narrative. The facts were written on the check from her father. Then came the final item, the wedding expenses. This was the part I knew she had been waiting for. The moment she thought she could claim financial victimhood. "We need to settle the rest of the wedding costs," Jack said. "It's straightforward," I replied, pulling out my own list. "You and Rachel paid for her dress and the invitations. I paid the non-refundable deposits for the band, caterer, and photographer, as well as the full non-refundable cost of our honeymoon to Italy. I also purchased the engagement ring." Rachel finally spoke, her voice edged with bitterness. "So you're going to pay me back for the dress, right? I can't return it." I almost laughed. "Absolutely not. You can sell it or burn it. I don't care. As for my losses, I'll be selling the engagement ring to recover some of the cost of the honeymoon I won't be taking." Her head snapped up, eyes flashing. "You're going to sell the ring after everything it was supposed to mean." I leaned forward, keeping my voice low and even. "It was supposed to mean we were building a life together, Rachel. A life you publicly questioned for entertainment. When you asked that live stream whether you should even bother marrying me, you stripped the ring of its meaning. It's not a symbol anymore. It's just a rock, a very pretty, very sellable rock." The finality in my voice seemed to hit her harder than anything else. There was nothing left to argue. The dream was over. I was liquidating the assets. That was it. We left. I never spoke to her again. Here's how things unfolded afterward, based on what I've heard from mutual friends and the occasional message. Rachel is still living with Caroline, and by all accounts, that arrangement is falling apart under the strain. Caroline signed up to be the fun maid of honor, not the full-time caretaker of a miserable broke roommate. Rachel had to take a regular 9-to-5 office job, which she apparently hates. She tells people I ruined her life. In a way, I suppose I did. I ruined the life she believed she was entitled to, the one where her actions had no consequences. Caroline's reputation took a hit as well. The live stream recorded by dozens made the rounds. She's no longer seen as the funny life of the party, but as the instigator who gleefully helped her best friend sabotage her own future. Karma has a way of working things out. As for me, I sold the ring. I got a decent price. I lost money, yes, but I gained peace, which is worth far more. The apartment feels like mine now. Clean, quiet, stable. I've embraced the boring life Rachel once mocked. It's been incredibly peaceful. I blocked her, Caroline, and her brother everywhere. Last week, I booked a flight, a solo trip to Italy. I'm taking the honeymoon alone. It's not the trip I originally planned, but it feels right. It feels like a beginning. The best part? Her complete lack of remorse. She will likely go through life convinced she was the victim of my overreaction. That certainty is all the validation I need. She wanted a show, and she got one. It just had an unexpected ending, the leading lady written out in the first act, and the leading man doing just fine.